Hello and welcome to Columbus Local Podcast. This is episode number 60.
60.
60. And it is my great pleasure this evening to have Doug Blessing. Doug, thanks so much for coming.
I'm so happy to be here. So happy. I'm fanboying a little bit because I've listened to so many of these episodes. I really am, yeah.
I think I'm the fanboy here, mister. Have you seen Rock House? Have you seen that band perform?
Yeah, I'm familiar with them. Yeah, I'm familiar.
Love the show, man. It is a show.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And that's a big part of what our goal was when we started this thing, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so Doug is the front man. You manage the band?
I am it is a labor of love for me, yes. I own the band, manage the band, lead singer, and take care of all the behind the scenes stuff, all the bookings, social media, website, merchandise, you name it. Yeah, Rock House is my passion and love.
And a fine product it is, man. You know, those of us that get to see you from time to time, I know share the admiration of what you've built.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. I appreciate that very much. Yeah.
Good rockin' times, and quite the show, man. It's good.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. I appreciate it. It really has been an incredible ride. You know, we're 6 years in, and the momentum just keeps coming at us, and I can't. I'm honestly, I pinch myself every year when we put our schedule together, and just like, man, look at what this little thing that was going to be a once a month deal, you know, has turned into, you know, and all the places it has taken us and all the things that we've done. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah. And some of those things that you're talking about, for those that don't know, I mean, you're booking this band in some serious events.
Yeah.
You have some regular travel that the band participates in performances all over. You're playing your regulars at the big night at the Columbus Oktoberfest,
right? Yeah,
year after year after year. Mm-hmm. And then maybe talk a little bit about some of the other places you guys are hitting.
I mean, there, you know, it's crazy because it was something that I grew up here in Columbus, you know. And I've always loved going to, my mom worked for the Convention Bureau, you know, when I was growing up, and I've always loved going to all the big events around Columbus, you know, Zufari, Oktoberfest, you know, you name it. Everything that they've had going on around here, I've always gone to. And I remember growing up and just being like, wow, how awesome is this for these bands? They get to perform in front of these huge crowds and so on and so forth. And when we put this thing together, you know, what seems like a lifetime ago, you know, building up to a fact that not only are we playing this stuff, but we're playing it year after year after year. And we have now played dozens. I mean, we're over 40 different festivals we've played around the state and beyond. And we get asked back to so many of them year after year. And it's just been amazing, you know, something that I never really honestly thought that I would be doing. It's honest to God truth. Yeah. Yeah.
So Doug, what is it that's driving you to continue to refine the show and continue to do what you're doing with Rock House?
That's a great question, actually. You know, it's funny because, you know, you and I were talking a little bit, you know, when I got to your place tonight and we were hanging out. You know, there's been a couple times in my personal life where I literally had to start over. You know, I was in the restaurant business forever, right out of high school, and you know, built my way up from being a cook at Damon's Restaurants, which I'm sure anybody here in Columbus knows what Damon's is, and I worked my way up to assistant general manager and I started working for, you know, another restaurant company and was a general manager for 5 years. And I got to a point in my adult life where I was like, I never wanted to be a restaurant manager. I was a cook, so I could go out and party with all the other waiters and waitresses on the weekends, you know. So I could meet girls and we could all hit the bars together on the weekends. That's why I was in the restaurant business. You know, it was never my passion. And, you know, in my early 30s, I left the restaurant business and started all over again. And, you know, and then I was been in the hotel business for 15 years and, you know, I've done a lot of great career type stuff with that, and all that stuff just kind of fell in line with the music stuff, and from a personal level, it's like, I always feel like I have to be moving forward, you know what I mean? And this momentum, of feeling like there has to be something behind you pushing you forward. And it hasn't left me yet. And I think I remember that feeling leaving me when I was in a couple times during my professional careers, but in the music side of my life, it hasn't left me. And if it does leave me, that will probably be the day that I'm like, okay, this has kind of ran its course, but like Rock House has just turned into this thing that like just keeps getting momentum behind it and keeps pushing me forward. And it just keeps building and building and growing. And it's just been crazy, and it drives me to keep wanting to do more and more and more and more. It's quite crazy. I mean, honest to God, it's funny because I'm like,
you're a rock star, man. I mean, you really are.
Well, it's funny. I look like your 8th grade math teacher, and I throw on this freaking wig on the weekends and go out and do this thing. And I'm extremely passionate about music, and I do a lot of things in my life that are music related. But doing this thing where we take it out on the weekends, and we've played in I think we're up to 10 different states we've played in now. And
man,
and the thing about it is, the music is transcendent to all generations. I don't think there's only a handful of eras of music that transcend all generations, right? And thankfully for guys like you and me and many of the musicians around Columbus, the 80s, the late 70s to early 90s era, that 15-year period when everybody that we know for the most part was growing up and in their formative musical years, it holds on.
Listening to QFM 96.
Yeah, listen to QFM 96, right?
Come on.
I listen to QFM 96 my whole life, and I'm friends with everybody that works there. And it's like for thank God for all of us that the music from our generation has transcended into the other generations, because literally, I mean, we have played in front of crowds from literally 7-year-old kids running around with balloons to, 85, 90-year-old people that are all singing along because they know all this stuff. And man, what a gift. I mean, what an incredible gift, right? For all of us that play this kind of music, this era of rock and roll, what an amazing gift that we were granted to be able to play it for this huge of a portion of our lives and have it affect so many different people. I don't think any of us would have ever expected that, right?
And you're still doing it.
Right, exactly.
And you do it very well.
I appreciate that.
It's a recreation of that era. It's reminiscent of kind of like, your favorite rock songs all put together, presented in one high energy show with all the bells and whistles that go with it. A couple surprises that you guys bring to the stage, and you got different players that come in and out, and it just really is it's a great representation of everything you just described.
I appreciate that, and it's funny because when Rock House began, and we can talk a little bit about how that all came around, where we even had to start the band Rock House coming out of the ashes of another band. But, it's like, this was something that I'm like, if we're going to do this, and like I say, at the time I was a vice president of sales and marketing for a large hotel corporation. And my whole mind set at that point in time in my life was around marketing stuff. I was opening hotels and coming up all these different, ways to market things on social media. And it just kind of like in my mind, it all applied to a band, a band. How do you market a band? Like, what does it need to look like? And what are people looking for? And what are promoters looking for? And what are festivals looking for? And I took it and I'm like, you know what? Instead of focusing on just playing the songs that I want to play or thinking about, what bars we can play at, this year or whatever, I'm going to put together a product. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I focused on, the first year we were Rock House in 2018. And it all went into that, our logo and our colors and the merchandise and the banners and the smoke geysers, and it was all by design, our website, and it was all like me, like in, sitting down and taking my free time and being like, what does a product look like as a band? Not just like, playing great music. We all love to play great music and we all like to be good at what we do or whatever, but presenting it in a way that like is memorable and like, it looks like a package, And I'll be honest with you, Len, when we were, through my life, I'm playing different bands, it's like, you look at other bands, and I remember specifically, when I started, playing in bands like that, I was like, every time I'd go to a festival or an event or something like that around Central Ohio, especially, but I'm like, why do the Menus and the Reaganomics get like every show? It's like, what are these guys doing? And it wasn't, I was jealous of them. I was just so curious. I'm like, how the hell is the Menus and the Reaganomics playing every single damn thing that I go to?
Marketing wizardry.
Yeah, and I was
and
like,
they're good.
Yes, of course they were good.
But they're marketing geniuses.
Yeah, for real. And I'm like, why? It's because it's a product. Everybody goes see the Menus because they know Tim's going to be kicking balloons and he's going to be changing outfits, and everybody's going to see the Reaganomics because they were. And like I say, make no mistake on this. Any of us that are playing 80s music in Columbus, Central Ohio, we all owe a debt to the Reaganomics because they had that idea 35 years ago, right?
And they leveraged
Yeah,
it.
they had the idea when the 80s music started fading out, like, well, the hell with that. We're going to make an 80s band. And they made something out of it that we should all look back and be like, damn, those guys were the pioneers. We're all cheating off the Reaganomics at this point, as far as I'm concerned. But, but that's for real, though, and I would be like, why are these guys getting on these shows? I'm like, well, it's because it's not just a bunch of people up there playing and doing a great job. It's a package, like it's a product.
Oh, yeah.
And the Menus, and people will say this about the Menus, anybody that's seen them, whether you love them or how you feel about them, you'll be like, they haven't changed their set list hardly at all in 40 years. But why do they need to? It's a package. It's a product. People are going to see something that they're familiar with and they like and makes them feel a certain way. And the Reaganomics the same way, and Mojo Flow and bands like that have been around forever, that it's like people go there because it's a familiar product.
Yeah. Well, Mojo Flow is a groove.
Yeah. Mojo Flow is a great band, They've been around forever. And there's a Conspiracy, and there's a bunch of bands around Columbus that have been around for decades. And it's a defined product. Yep. It's not just the music. It's a thing,
And you know what you're going to get.
Yeah,
and you're going because you know what you're going to get.
Right.
And that's the same with Rock House, man.
Yeah, and that was the idea behind the whole thing. It's like, we don't have to dress up and do all this stuff, but like, what? But it's a thing. It's a product, and it's something that like people are going to walk away and they're going to remember it. And then when they think about going to see an 80s band and seeing this music, like it's immediately going to pop in their head because it's so familiar and it's so defined. And that was kind of like my whole way of thinking,
I've seen you guys a number of times and you sound consistently awesome. Okay.
That's very nice compliment. Thank you.
I know that some of that has to do with, each individual being professional in their spot, right? And knowing their parts and knowing them well. But the other part of that equation is the professional sound management, right? The guys that mix the band, and on a mixing board, and then run that through amplification and speakers and whatnot. How do you keep that as consistent as I've witnessed?
That's a great question. You know what?
Yeah,
that is a great question, Len. And I'll tell you what. There is something that. That I think is a huge piece of that. And I don't mean this in any derogatory way. We don't use any tracks. It is a rock and roll band is a very organic thing in my mind. You know what I mean? And I think that, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with using tracks, but there's the more stuff you add in from an audio, supportive audio perspective or whatever, you're leaving room for things to go astray, in a lot of different ways. You're adding in elements. The more, and anyone that's ever played live and had to plug into something knows that anything and everything will go wrong at some point. It could be anything. And the more elements that you add, the more room there is for something to go awry. But if you are a cohesive unit, you can't be a cohesive unit with a laptop or with an iPad or with tracks. You can't. They're there, and they could go wrong, and they will go wrong, and they'll get messed up. Yeah, exactly.
Bandwidth issues.
Yeah,
all kind of
it could be a million things,
Yep.
it could just be, there's a million different reasons why things like that don't work the way that you want them to, but you're a cohesive unit with the same group of people, and that is a very tangible thing. You know what I mean? You can't replace that with tracks and with different effects and things like that, because those things are fallible. And the cohesiveness of a group of people playing music together with the same passion, it comes across from an an audible perspective, as well as a visual perspective. And I'm very blessed we've been playing with the same guys since we started this. We had a change at drummer during COVID, and that was it. And everything else has been the same guys, and we're just literally presenting it, and it's all very organic. It's totally organic. It's us just be so happy to be up there sharing the music we love with people that are having a good time. And it's an honest thing.
Looking for it.
Yeah, man.
It's feeling happy about it.
Yeah, for sure, man. It just, I think that's a big part of the appeal is like, this is totally us just doing our thing, We're just having fun, And I listened to your episode with Tiffany from Martini Affair,
Oh, yeah.
And she was talking about getting dressed up for the shows and wearing crazy dresses. And, it's like, why I do it? It's because it's fun.
Right.
Well, yeah, shit, I don't have to wear a wig, and I don't have to buy freaking crazy-ass fringed spandex pants. I do it. It's because it's fun, man. It's freaking fun. It's fun throwing on fishnet gloves and spiked bracelets and shit like that. It's fun, man. It's rock and roll.
A hot dog dress. In her case, right?
Yeah, right.
Or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, and I totally respect that. It's like, just do you, get up there and I came from this school of, I was born in 1970, and the first records that I ever owned, it's cliche as shit, but it's true to every guy from our generation, was Kiss, man. I had Kiss Alive 1 and Kiss Alive 2 on album, and I'd stare at the pictures, and I'd listen to them on my record player, and that's real shit, man. That really happened, and then David Lee Roth came along, when I was in junior high school, and I, standing up singing on my bed with a freaking stick, and wanting to be David Lee Roth, and it's like, well, now I'm in my 50s, and I'm just having fun, man. Yeah,
you're
that's
doing your
it.
thing, man.
It's totally it. I'm just literally just having fun, and like, it doesn't bother me if people laugh at me, and I get people giving me shit all the time for wearing the wig and goofing around and wearing the costume shit. I'm like, dude. Believe me, it's funny to me too. You think I ever thought I'd be 53 years old and combing out a wig in my garage every Friday and Saturday night? No, man, that was never on my agenda. But it's fun, dude. It really is. It's a blast, and I'm grateful to get to do it.
And you're doing it.
I'm doing it.
And people are digging it.
I'm doing it. Yeah, for sure.
The crowds, dude. I'm telling you, man. The crowds are just like off the hook.
Yeah, man.
This past Columbus Oktoberfest.
Oh my God.
I was supposed to be a part of doing podcast episodes in the back.
I remember,
room,
yeah.
And I was there the first night, and I was so sick. And then the next day, I missed all you guys. But did you guys do Oktoberfest this year?
Absolutely,
think you did,
yeah. And I'll tell you what,
I saw those pictures, and I talked to Cliff about it, and I said, Cliff, I saw those photos, man, and the best picture I saw was a picture of Cliff, but it was behind Cliff, and it had the whole crowd.
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen a bigger crowd in the
it's crazy.
Fairgrounds pavilion there.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen.
It was crazy, man. And I'll tell you what, I'm a businessman at heart. It's just me, I talked to Wayne, obviously our buddy Wayne Owens that, works Oktoberfest. I was like, hey, look, Wayne, Wayne came up and saw us play at Put-in-Bay last summer. And I was like, you know what, Wayne? I was like, Put-in-Bay, we showed up and they said, hey, and how about instead of playing, for 3 hours and taking a half-hour break in the middle, if you guys just play for 2.5 straight hours. And that way we don't lose any of the crowd when you take your break. Because, that's just the way the world works. We go on at 9 o'clock at Oktoberfest, 9 to 12. Same thing at Put-in-Bay, 9 to 12. And how about instead of playing 9 to 12 with a break, you play 9 to 11:30 straight through. We're like, okay. And we did it at Put-in-Bay, and it kicked ass, The place was packed. Nobody left. So I brought it to Wayne. I said, hey, Wayne, this is what we did at Put-in Bay. Well, how would you feel like doing it at Oktoberfest? How about instead of us playing 9 to 12 with a break, a 25, 30-minute break in the middle where, half the people leave because it's, 10:30 on a Saturday night.
Less Bahama Mamas, less beers.
How about we play straight through? And he was like, that's a great idea. And we did. And I got to talk to Wayne at New Year's Eve. And I said, hey, I never got a chance to catch up with you after that, but how did it go? What was the impact? And he said it was the biggest night they ever had. Biggest night in the history of Oktoberfest.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like what? Nobody wants to stop the party.
Right.
You're having a good time, but when a band takes a break, it gives you an open door policy. You're like, well, I'll finish the beer I've got, and then we can go. Especially if it's we take our break at like 10:30. And so, keeping the party rolling. And the funny thing is, and we did not do this intentionally, was that we had our set list done and we were just rolling and rolling and rolling. And by the time that we got everything finished and walked off, I looked at my clock and it was midnight. So we literally played 3 straight hours without taking a break. And I'm sure, like, from the beer vendors and the food vendors and shit like that, having that going on, it was impactful. It was don't get me wrong, Oktoberfest is affected a lot by the weather. We had beautiful weather that night, so it was like the perfect storm. It was like low 70s, beautiful weather, and we started. We hit the stage hard at 9:00, and we didn't stop until just before midnight. And that was, it's funny that picture that you're talking about. I know exactly which picture you're talking about. And I posted that on our Facebook page, and we had almost 900 likes to that picture.
Oh, no doubt, dude.
Because it literally looked like we were playing the freaking,
dude, it said it all.
It was insane. Yeah, like that picture is like pretty damn impactful. And I remember it's kind of like the band thing to do where, like, the day after your shows, you're like, great time last night. Look at the crowd, blah, 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 blah. And I remember the next day I just posted that one picture, and I was like, I'm going to post more pictures from Oktoberfest. But this picture right here says it all, man. This picture says what was up with last night. It was crazy. That was awesome. Yeah, I know exactly which picture you're talking about because that was the picture I posted. Yeah.
Just like,
crazy, dude.
God,
it was just amazing. I walked out of there just floating on a cloud. Yeah.
Oh, but you get to do that every time.
It's great, man. Right? Hey, I'll tell you what though. Don't get it twisted. I mean, we had a few shows last year. I remember last year, like in the, in 2023 in the summer, we had this one weekend that we were so pumped up about. We had 3 great shows lined up for a long weekend, and it was 4th of July weekend actually. And the first show that we were playing at Newport on the Levee, which Newport on the Levee. Okay, over the years it has gone through phases, Right, but like I remember back in the day going to Newport on the Levee, like back in the 90s, it was a freaking hot spot. They had bars down there. There's a huge bar district down in Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati. Well, this new place had opened, and it was at Newport on the Levee. It's called 16 Lots, and great place, great stage, and it had taken over for a bar that was there forever. And we were so excited to play there. And we were the second band that played there. The first band that played there was Naked Karate Girls. And they played the grand opening night. We played there like 2 weeks after the place opened. And the night we were playing there last summer was the same night as Taylor Swift was playing in Cincinnati, right?
Geez.
Right across the river, okay? So not only that, but Taylor Swift was playing. The Reds were playing that night right across so stadium next to stadium, right? Reds were playing. Their soccer team was playing, and so all this shit's going down and down. So we're like, oh my God, man! We're like going to the weekend. Like I remember putting it on our Facebook page, like it's gonna be off the chain, dude. Like fucking half the population's gonna be in Cincinnati, right? Well, it never occurred to me that Taylor Swift, when Taylor Swift's in town, not only does Taylor Swift play, but like freaking 80,000 people that aren't going to the show come in. There wasn't anywhere to park within a mile of where we played at, dude. We played to like 6 people, and it was crazy, man. We drove down there, we drove down to Cincinnati, and we pull in this place, and we get set up, and we've got we got all our shit set up, and our our spark fountains and everything. And honestly, I mean, Thank God the beer was good and the food was good, but but I'm not kidding you. Like we played, I think the most that was ever in that place that night was like 12 people, because there was not anywhere to park within a mile of there. I shit you not. It was crazy, you know.
But Kevin and Jimmy and those folks they all found their way to you guys. they had the only 6 spots.
That's
left.
right. Yeah. No, there was the people that were there were like, yeah, this is great. You know.
All right. So it's good to know that the big guys have. Their challenging nights.
We've all been
too,
there.
man.
Yeah. It never stops. You're still on the chopping block to have a stinker every now and again.
Well, but how many shows do you guys have in 2024? Because you're just now kind of starting to ramp up now, right?
Yeah. So we just had our so while we're recording this, here near the end of March, and we always take January and February off. That's kind of like a thing for us. We really hit it hard from March through like November, until we get back from Key West, and we typically take December, January, February off. These past couple of years, we've obviously played the big New Year's Eve party that I put on, which has been great. We can chat about that in a minute as well. But so we took January and February off this year, and then we have kicked off our year. Kind of, it's become a tradition in Knoxville, Tennessee, for a weekend. So we just played there Friday and Saturday night last weekend, and we go down there. We see all our amazing fan base that we somehow acquired in the Knoxville area, and kick the dust off. After having after not played for 2.5 months, we're like, we're not going to screw up too bad in Central Ohio, but we'll go screw up in Knoxville and nobody will give a shit. So we go there, we knock the dust off, and we, remind ourselves of why we're doing all this shit. And then we, and then we come back up here. So we start kicking it back into gear, this coming weekend, the new place out in Newark, which we're excited to play, West Church Social. And and then we just start hitting at it.
23rd, right? Saturday?
Yeah, it's March 23rd, 2024, as we're recording this. And I kind of start fading off booking shows when we get to about 45. And it's like we like to be in that 45 to 50 range every year. And right now for 2024, we're sitting at 55. There's a reason for that. I did cap it off at 49. And then we got offered a couple of private events, which are, as anybody that plays, music knows, you just don't turn those down. And then we got offered Fantasy Fest again for Key West, which we did last year for the very first time. We've been playing in Key West since 2017, which is one of the greatest joys of my life. And we played Fantasy Fest last year for 4 nights, and absolutely, it was just we were the perfect band for the demographic there. And last year, they didn't ask us to do it until September, and it was the end of October was when we did it. So, it literally was with about 6 weeks' notice. This year, I wasn't sure if they would ask us again. I was like, maybe they'll switch it up, whatever, which would be totally understandable because bands from all over the country play there. So I was like, well, I thought we really did a damn good job. I don't know what will happen. So I was down there for vacation last month and had lunch with the entertainment manager from Sloppy Joe's. He said, hey, well, I've got you here. We'd love to have you guys back for Fantasy Fest. And I was like, oh, yeah.
So cool, dude. Way in advance, too, right? So
right. Way in advance. Where we had to throw it together last year, and I really didn't know if we were going to be able to do it because we were already going down there. I told you it was, back-to-back weeks. We were already going to be there for a week. So to add on another week and have everybody take the additional time off of work and get the travel plans all changed and all that, we were able to make it work. And it was something that I think we will all talk about till the end of our days. So the fact that we're going to get to do it again is pretty freaking awesome. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So 4 days, how does that work? What are the logistics to that event?
Yeah. So Fantasy Fest is like, and this is I could describe it as one word from the entertainment standpoint. It's fluid, and that's how the entertainment director described it to me. It's fluid, man. This is your time slot. You guys are scheduled to play from 5:30 to 9:30. The band after you goes on at 10. And it's fluid because anything and anything can happen during Fantasy Fest. He's like, we've got contests that go on. We randomly pull people up on stage. The parade goes on, so we don't have the band play during the parade. We've got, picture opportunities, press coming in, all kinds of shit. He was like, so just roll with it. I'm like, hey, dude, we can do that, man. We've done that before. When we did all the stuff, and anything we've done with QFM 96, it's the same kind of thing. It's like, hey, you just point at me and give me the wink and we'll stop. And when you point at me and give me the wink again, we'll start playing again. And
Nice.
And so we did it, and we just had so much fun, so much freaking fun, dude. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it, honestly. I feel like I need hand motions, and where I know where this is just audio only.
I'll be honest, man. When I'm in Key West, I'm hitting the music, and I'm also hitting some of the entertainment. But I am always renting one of those little motor scooters.
Right.
Who's the motor scooter guy in Rock House?
That would be Bob. That would be
drummer?
our drummer, the
Oh my
largest man in the group.
Well, that explains things because I'm the largest man in this room.
Right. So he gets this the day we get in, man, he gets that scooter and he's zipping around town, for the whole time we're there on his scooter.
With him,
gets to the same place every year.
I beeline to the beach, Like I go see the monument and there's a great little bar there, like right on the beach. I forget the name of it.
Yeah.
But then you kind of spin by Sloppy Joe's, and then you kind of take the main highway, and then boom, there's this giant beach in Key West. It's great.
Yeah, that little bar on the beach is called Loggerheads, actually, and we've had a couple times we've been down in Key West playing. We've had so many people come down that we did a beach party there where we bought a keg from the bar and had them stick it in a barrel on the beach, and we had everybody come down and our bagpipe player would play the bagpipes on the beach, and we'd obviously partake in the keg. And man, I'll tell you what, dude, it's just an incredible gift.
What a night, man!
Incredible gift to have gotten to play down there as long as we have. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Doug, you mentioned earlier the ultimate New Year's Eve party.
Yeah.
In Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, right. Sure.
That's all you. Is
that
accurate?
It's 50% me.
Okay.
A lot of musicians in town might recognize the name Stephen Klein. He's got a company called SKP, Stephen Klein Productions. He runs sound and production for a lot of things here around town and well beyond. He's done shit internationally and all that. And he and I have been friends for, I don't know, we met back in probably 94, I'd say. We've known each other in many different capacities. He used to be a magician and do a lot of magic stuff, big magic shows and stuff. And anyway, long story short, a few years ago, so as Rock House, we did a couple of New Year's Eve parties, all inclusive, at the Marriott at Ohio State, pre-COVID. And I was going into, so our last one there, was 2019. And I was thinking about taking it up a notch. I'm like, you know what? Maybe we ought to bring in a couple more bands and let's make this bigger. And then, of course, COVID hit. So I didn't obviously do it that year. And then in 2021, I was like, you know what? I'm still not sure if I want to jump into that realm, because what if COVID comes back, and what if everybody's like, I don't want to go out for New Year's Eve.
There's a lot of risk to that.
Yeah, there was still a risk factor involved that just didn't feel like it was the right time yet. And then 2022 comes around, and I called Steve in like February of 2022. I was like, hey, man, you want to grab a cup of coffee? I've got an idea I want to roll at you, So we met up for coffee, and I said, so I want to do a New Year's Eve party, like a big all-inclusive thing, multiple bands, open bar, buffets, all kinds of stuff, multiple stages. How would you like to partner with me on it? How about you and I do it together? And he was like, yeah, okay. And that was it. So we secured the venue, at Polaris, the Hilton at Polaris.
Great.
We both agreed, like, we don't want it downtown. We want the demographic to be our demographic, like 45 plus. Yep. We're not going after the short north crowd. We want it to be an older demographic where people want to come and throw on a suit and a party dress and come out and have a good time and no fights, no bullshit, no drama. We just want to have good bands, great music, great dancing, drinks, food.
Have a lot of fun.
Yeah, right. And man, it was a freaking smashing success. So we did it in 2022. We sold it out in 2022 in 7 days, 450 tickets. And then we did it again in 2023. We were able to add more VIP. The Hilton let us expand our capacity and do some creative things. So we got up to where we were at 550, sold it out again. We've had, amazing time putting that on. And so we're obviously gearing up to do it again. We already had our meeting with the Hilton for 2024, and we're changing up the bands this year and keeping it rolling, man. It's been a great process.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yep. So there will be one this year.
There will be one this year. Yes, sir.
We'll be in the country this year, so we can make it.
We missed you there this year. I know, right?
We hit the first one.
You did, and I remember texting you this year and saying, "Hey, man, I still got a couple seats left. Do you want to?" Yeah, right. Because I hated seeing you guys miss it.
Yeah. Beth actually ended up going. I wasn't feeling well.
I remember.
And then Beth actually was out of the country.
And Beth was out of the country.
I wasn't going to stag that one.
Yeah,
there's too much going on there.
So Steve and I did this thing with the New Year's Eve, and we've tried to stretch our legs and do some other stuff with it. So as we're recording this, it's spring of 2024, and we're going to be doing something with QFM 96 here in May, up on the north end, Cinco de Mayo thing. We're actually calling it Fiesta de Mayo because Cinco de Mayo falls on a Sunday. We're having our party on Saturday the 4th. So we're in Fiesta de Mayo. We're having Fabulous Johnson Brothers and a band called Boaterhead, which is a yacht rock band out of Cleveland who are massively popular. And we're having a mariachi band. But we want to do more stuff. We want to do more events. I personally am a huge Halloween guy, so I'm really hoping that we can pull together like a big Halloween thing. Like I want to do like a big, like major, like costume ball with tons of like immersive decor and all that. So I don't know if this will be the year for that or not, and we all have time constraints and there's financial things to work out, but I see us doing some cool stuff with this. Yeah.
Where do you think that Halloween event could unfold?
I have the perfect venue.
Yeah, you're not going to talk about those.
No, I will. I'll tell you what it is. It's the old Columbus Municipal Power Plant right down here by Crew Stadium, not too far from your place here.
Right.
So the one with the big Crew smokestack on it. So we went and toured that with the owner a few months ago, and it is creepy as shit in the basement, man. I mean, it is like catacombs down there. And they have all that exposed brick and like the old pipes and the old electrical switches and stuff. So it's definitely the best place to do something like that I've ever seen. That's, that you could do it without having to get crazy permits or something. But it's a banquet hall. But it's already got like the bones are there to do a crazy Halloween party. So So I mean,
man, how do you find that? How do you find something? Is that a secret?
No, it's not a secret. So so here's the thing, and this is just me to a T, right? So like if I see somebody interesting on social media, someone that's local, I'm like, I really want to. I wish I knew that person. I'll just fucking reach out to him. I mean, so that's how I met Cliff Marsh, that plays saxophone, obviously, and was one of your guests not too long ago. Then Cliff obviously ended up playing with us. But I was just like, I was like, man, it'd be cool if we had a saxophone player and for a few songs at this one show that we're doing. And I was like, I've seen this guy on Facebook. I don't know him from a hole in the wall, but I'm going to reach out to him.
He just showed up one day in Columbus, Ohio, and it's like, who's this guy playing sax around town?
He's freaking cool, man? He had a cool look. He's obviously a great player, and that's how I met Cliff. And so cool, last year we added a few of our shows. We had dancers. We did a dance routine from the 80s, the song Twilight Zone by Golden Earring. The video for that, they had the girls doing the dance routine or whatever, and they also used to do that live. And I was like, we should do that, And I freaking just called up a dance studio. I saw these people online. I'm like, I bet they could do it. And I just called, I just love that shit, That's what social media is for, right? That's how you meet people.
Yes.
So on social media, I was on there one day and, more than one day, and I saw this dude who was like doing all these special effects, and he was from Columbus area. And there was an article about him in the paper where he was going to open up like a horror movie special effects school. And I'm like, how cool is that, man? I love first of all, I'm a huge horror fan. I'm a nut for horror movies, anything scary, horror, Halloween. I love all that stuff. And so I was like, man, I'd love to meet this dude, man. I bet this guy is wild, Well, and then I saw my friend, a lot of people who listen to your podcast know, my buddy Russ Patrick. who's here locally. He plays music and he's friends with, a lot of local music. So I saw Russ Patrick post something where he had donated a bunch of his Halloween decorations to this guy's project he was working on. I'm like, holy shit, Russ knows this guy, you know?
Way.
So I reach out to Russ. I'm like, how do you know Todd? His name's Todd Reed. I was like, how do you know Todd Reed? He's like, oh, we used to work together at Ticketmaster back in the day. I'm like, well, I want to meet this guy, man. He seems like an awesome dude.
Yeah.
So 3 days later, Todd and I are having beers up at Bridge Park. Me and him and his wife are having beers. We end up sitting there talking and laughing for 4 hours, talking about horror movies and parties and bands and just, it's like, man, sometimes like you see these people online, you're like, me and this guy should be friends, man. I need to know this person, and I'll totally do that. Yeah, that's just the kind of person I am. Like, I was like, I love meeting people and I love collaborating with people, people that are creative. And man, there's so many creative people in Central Ohio. Not just musically, but just from a lot of different standpoints.
Totally
I had the
agree.
great opportunity to get to know and be friends with a lot of people from Shadowbox Live, and they're so inspirational. These people are doing this incredible. It's the largest, musical theater of its type in the whole country, the longest running, and it's done so many amazing things with the community and so forth. And you meet people like that and it inspires you. It's like to bring out passion. And I love meeting people like that because it inspires me. And it helps me be creative and it keeps all this kind of stuff fresh, and it gives me new ideas of how to expand what I like to do and hopefully maybe help them expand what they do, and I think that's amazing.
Well,
I love doing that.
The cool thing too, Doug, is that you create these platforms, if you will, where some of the other musical talent around town are able to participate, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And be a part of delivering that entire event in the best possible ways.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's great for everyone involved,
Yeah, Todd Waits that plays keyboards with us, he reached out to me a couple years ago. We had no plans of finding a keyboard player, and it wasn't something we had ever even really considered doing, having a keyboard player. And he reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm a keyboard player and I wonder if you get together. And I was like, I'm not really looking for a keyboard player, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I was like, but, I was like, he sounded like a cool dude, I don't know how you've met him before, I know, but, he lost an arm to cancer when he was a kid. And he's got these great stories of inspiration and things that he's done that would just inspire anybody. And I was like, yeah, let's, at least love to meet you, and let's just sit and chat. And I met him for a beer that turned into 3 beers that turned into him playing with us 2 weeks later, And,
That's cool.
But I was like, I met this guy. I'm like, I wasn't planning on having a keyboard player, but this guy's so freaking cool, and he's
in.
And he's so like creative and he's just like, he just fits, and I've had an amazing time getting to know him and bringing him along for the ride and use him for shows. Same thing with Cliff. We were going to use a sax player for like 2 shows a couple years ago, and now Cliff's probably played 25 shows with us, and it's just fun, man.
He's one of those iconic presences.
Yeah.
You see him and you hear him, and
Sure.
It's like he's a head turner.
Yeah, he's cool, and it's like everybody loves
what's going on.
Yeah, saxophone is something that people just like gravitate towards, and I've really enjoyed going to see watching him and Laura put their thing together here locally, and you see them. But I love seeing people take what they're passionate about and just moving with it, because that they're like enjoying that experience. If you know someone and you know what they're passionate about, and you start to see them like do something with it. It makes you feel good because that they're enjoying that experience, and I think that's awesome. I'm so grateful to be friends with so many people that do so many cool creative things, because I love watching that process unfold,
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So we'll keep our eyes peeled for this Halloween.
Oh,
2024.
God. Fingers crossed, man. I know. I hope I can. Man,
we hope it comes together.
I took the time off. I took the gig time off. I didn't take any gigs the weekend that I'm planning on doing at which is the weekend of the OSU bye week, because so nobody in their right mind books a show on an OSU football game.
You learned that lesson a long time ago, didn't you?
Oh, I tell you what, I got wise to that. It's funny you bring that up because I was thinking about this the other day. It was like, I got wise to that. Like after you only need to be, I don't know about everybody else, but I only need to be burned like once or twice
Just
before
one
I'm
time.
like, yeah, right. Usually once is enough for me. And the funny thing is, nowhere else in the galaxy cares about Ohio State playing a night game except for the people within about 30 miles of where you and I are sitting right now, right?
Exactly.
So I don't take shows. Well, and I take that back. We have played Varsity Club probably about 20 times, which has been a great experience. But I will say I doubt we'll ever do it again because a 2-hour show turns into a 12-hour day. It is a pain in the ass getting in and out of there. But I've had some great memories of playing Varsity Club. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But I've also played in 18-degree, 30-mile-an-hour snow and sleet weather at Varsity Club and been down there at 7:30 in the morning to set up. But I don't know. I would never say never. But anyways, what I meant to say was I won't ever take a show in Columbus, Ohio on a Varsity Club or on a Ohio State football game, but I'll take one someplace else. Yeah, because like we played up in Cleveland 3 different Saturdays this past football season. We even played in Cleveland we played in Sandusky the night of the OSU Notre Dame game. And they had it up on the big screen and people were watching it, kinda.
But they were watching you.
But they were watching us.
Good.
And I was like, I hate giving up all those Saturdays, unless you're playing down on campus, which those of us that have played on campus know that it is a commitment when you play on campus. And it really is. Okay. And the weather, the weather during football season can be anything from 80 degrees and sunny to 0 degrees with snow and freezing rain and high winds. You could do anything. So you automatically lose all those weekends. Well, it's like, well, if you're willing to go an hour away or more on those weekends, you can play anywhere you want because they don't stop partying in the rest of Ohio on OSU football games. Columbus is the only area Central Ohio is the only area that does that stops having bands. Yeah, so I'm like, hell with it. I'm not booking anything in Columbus. I'll just take it out. Yeah, so we can play.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's right. I figured that out a while ago. I'm like, why didn't I figure that out when I was younger?
That'd be a lesson to the rest of us. Oh, you can play.
You put that in. You can write that down.
Just don't play in Columbus.
Just don't play in Columbus. It always makes me feel bad because I've had it happen to me as well.
Oh.
When I see bands that book a show and they promote a show, and then all of a sudden, like the week before, Ohio State decides, oh, we're going to play this game at night instead of during the day. And then you're like, well, there goes that show,
Have you seen the Columbus Bride in tears on a Saturday?
Oh, God, yeah.
At the reception?
I have, dude. I worked in the catering industry for 4 years when I was younger.
Yeah. I don't know why. Or everybody's in the bar next door watching the game.
I've seen it firsthand.
And they're not in the reception at her wedding reception. And she's just crushes, the poor bride.
I know.
It's insane what's going on. Anyway, that's a little
there you go.
Little left turn.
We can move away from that, but for those of you that play music in Central Ohio listening, just go an hour outside and your gig will not get canceled. I promise you.
That's good to know, man.
Yeah, it's good advice.
First-hand knowledge.
Yeah.
So, Doug, how did music start for you?
Oh man, you know what, Len? I will say this, so I was, you and I were talking, when I first got here earlier tonight, I was an Alrosa kid, I started going to the Alrosa on all ages nights back in the day. I'm a Westerville guy. I know a lot of your guests have been Westerville guys.
Shout out to Westerville.
Guys and girls. The Kulos are Westerville people. Yeah, Todd Bettler, Westerville.
Mains.
Yeah, that's right. Mains. I mean, Westerville's been well represented on your show. So I graduated from Westville North. And honestly, I was a huge rock and roll dude in high school, but I was lazy as a son of a bitch, man. I was lazy. I mean, I look back, I'm like, God, why didn't I put a little more effort into stuff back then? Because I was partying, I had long hair and an earring and I wore a jean jacket in 90-degree heat, with my Van Halen shirt and ripped up jeans and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't play music. I was just a huge rock and roll dude, I mean, I had the stickers on my notebook and patches on my jacket and, whatever. And then crazy enough, so, I was big into concerts. I was always going to the Alrosa, and I saw tons of concerts. First time I went to the Newport, I thought I'd been reborn. I thought the Newport was the greatest. I still to this day think it's the greatest venue in Central Ohio. Love the Newport. And so, I got married young to my first wife, Darcy. So, I was in my, early 20s, and her parents were old hippies. Her parents came from the Woodstock era. and her parents and their friends, we'd go to their house, they'd sit around, and they had these old notebooks where they'd handwritten songs in pencil in these notebooks, and they'd sit around there playing, songs by the band and Janis Joplin and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Eagles, all kind of stuff from like mid '60s to early '70s kind of stuff. And we'd sit there, and I loved sitting there and listening to them all play and whatever, and I loved sing along. I knew all the songs, and then I was like, I'd love to learn how to play, like how to strum along with them, and I got a guitar. I went and bought a guitar. So I would have been probably 24. So this would have been like maybe 94, maybe 95. And I went and bought my first guitar, and I started, strumming along and playing a few chords. And honest to God, this is pre-internet, I'm talking about here. So I would go to the Columbus Public Library, the main branch downtown, and I would check out like 20 music books at a time. I swear to God, this is true. And I would get home, and I had a 500-page notebook, like spiral notebook, and I would handwrite lyrics in pencil and write the chords above where the chord changes were in pencil. And I had a notebook, and I still have it, and it's got hundreds. I don't think I ever actually got it all the way filled with 500, but I bet I've got 350 songs
That's
in
so
it.
cool, man.
And these are songs I hand wrote in pencil, and it's everything. It's pop, it's rock, it's oldies, 70s, 80s, and a shitload of country, because this was in the 90s, right? So, as you and I were talking about earlier, I can't remember if we were recording or not, but I was Kiss.
Sure.
Was it for me when I was a kid, Kiss, I had Kiss Live 1 and Kiss Live 2 on album. I listened to them on my record player, and I was just a massive Kiss fan as a kid, and until Van Halen came along when I was a few years after that, early 80s. David Lee Roth was to me, was just bigger than life. Kiss was bigger than life. They were superheroes, but David Lee Roth was like, the poster on my walls is funny because it was Kiss. Then the Kiss posters came down, and it was all David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen. And my posters on my walls were all Van Halen. And then, of course, later 80s, it was like, I loved Warrant. I thought Jani Lane, to this day, I still think Jani Lane was one of the greatest frontmen of all time. I think Jani Lane and David Lee Roth were the two best frontmen from that era for lots of different reasons. Not just vocals, but entertainment value, and their just the way they interacted with the crowd, I think, was just special.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing is, when I was just a huge rock dude, and when the 90s hit, and I graduated high school in '88, and I was going out all the time and partying and hitting the bars, and I was at the Alrosa and going out to the campus bars and stuff like that. And then when grunge and stuff started, it was so dark, and I wasn't dark. My life was fucking great,
and it still
yeah,
is.
Right. But life was, I was fun, I was out partying there all the time.
Grunge was dirty.
It was
man.
dark, man. It was
dark.
like, I wasn't an angry, volatile, angsty kind of person. I was all about partying, I was all about, I loved having fun and going out and cranking the music up while I was getting ready to go out at my house. I'd be in the shower in my little studio apartment with freaking, music cranked up, listening to Jackal.
It's called the pregame.
Yeah, right.
The pregame.
That's right. I've got Skid Row on, my stereo, and I'm freaking in the shower with the door open.
Myself with Brute, right?
Yeah. So the crazy thing is, in the 90s, rock wasn't fun anymore. Rock was dark and angry, there was still, a lot of my buddies, especially Archie from QFM, we talk about it, and I was not into the whole, I certainly wasn't into grunge, I never liked any of those bands at all. And I really wasn't at that point in my life where I felt any anger or aggression, where I was into Pantera or, Megadeth and stuff like that. I loved that stuff when I was, just because I liked the energy of it but when I was in my 20s, I just liked having fun, man. I was just so freewheeling.
Yeah, so 80s party rock.
Yeah, right. And that kind of stuff was dying.
Stuff was always
upbeat
and party.
It totally was,
and
yeah.
It definitely definitely took a dip.
It
in
took
the
a
90s.
huge dip, and and even like the feel at the rock shows. I was still going to some shows at the Alrosa and at the Newport and whatever, and just the feeling of the shows was just so much darker. It just wasn't that fun freewheeling, people up on each other's shoulders and throwing beer, and it just wasn't there anymore. But you know what kind of music was still like that? Country was fun in the 90s. And I know people listen to this that know me, and have only seen me play rock music. I got into country music in the 90s, and I was fucking hooked. Oh, wow. I mean, because it was fun, man. All the bars, like if people remember, if you grew up here, if you were around here in the 90s, so many of the bars that we all partied at when we were in the mid to late 80s, or, like Coconut Beach Club and R&R at the Continent, and they all changed to country bars, Atlantis out on the east side changed to Club Dance. All the bars changed to country because you know what? Country was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Crazy.
I just wanted to go out and have fun, and I didn't want to get angry and shove some guy around a pit. I wanted to go and drink beer and pick up chicks and dance, and country was fun. So when I started playing guitar and started playing music, I started playing country.
Yep.
And because it was super popular. We're talking the era of Garth Brooks and Brooks and Dunn and Shania Twain and Clint Black, and it was super popular. I mean, the charts, if you look back at the Billboard charts in like 1995, 8 of the top 10 albums were country albums. I mean, it's crazy, but I still have some of my old Rolling Stone magazines from back then, and country ruled in the 90s. And so I was playing country. So when I started playing out as a musician, because I picked up a guitar for the first time in my early 20s, I was 24, 80% of what I was playing was country. Current country, like what was current country at the time.
At that time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the rest of it was a mix of 80s and then like Jimmy Buffett and the Eagles and,
party music.
Marshall Tucker Band and, Crosby, Stills and Nash, stuff like that. So it was a mix of stuff like that. And so when the first few bands I was in were Southern rock / country bands. And we were doing 38 Special and Skynyrd, of course, and stuff like that. And that was my genre. I mean, that was my genre all the way up through, I got out of playing music for a while after my kids were born. My daughter was born in 99. My son was born in 03. And I was just too busy. And, I was going through a divorce then, and music I just didn't do it for like 5 years. And when I got back into it, it was me and Stretch, my guitar player now, Stretch, that everybody knows. He and I started playing out acoustically in 2005, and we played out acoustically for 3 years.
What are you guys known as?
So this is horrible. We we were Stretch-O-Matic. And I'll tell you, it's a terrible name.
That's not hard. That's not terrible.
It could be worse. You said your buddy's name was the Mathematics, right? Which I said was a good name.
Billy
but
Spitfire.
here's how it happened. So Stretch and I started jamming. And I was coming off of my divorce from my first wife. I'd lived in Florida for a short period of time. I was moving home, and he heard I was moving back. He's like, "Hey man, do you want to get to jam and put together an acoustic thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great, man. I need something to do. I need to get out." And we started jamming and immediately clicked. And he and I put together a 40-song list in no time, within a few weeks. And I was like, I'm going to start booking us some shows, right? So my mom knew the manager of Lane Avenue Mall. And she was like, hey, Lane Avenue Mall, my friend that manages told me they want to do a music series in the summertime during the week. And they're looking for acoustic acts. I was like, oh, perfect. So I go down there to meet her, and she books us for eight dates.
That's freaking
and
awesome.
We didn't even have a name yet. So like a dumbass, of course, instead of me saying, I'll send it all to you, I'm like, oh, Stretch-O-Matic. That was it, dude. True story. So I call Stretch on the phone from the Rusty Bucket at Lane Avenue Mall. I'm like, dude, I just booked us for 8 shows.
8 shows.
And he was like, well, what are we calling ourselves? Like, I just told her we were called Stretch-O-Matic. And he was like, Stretch-O-Matic? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, it's,
it's perfect.
Something, So we were Stretch-O-Matic, and that's it.
I love it.
And we played, when Hoggy's restaurants were around, we played Hoggy's Polaris, Hoggy's Linworth, Hoggy's Grove City.
Delaware?
We didn't play no, we did not play the Hoggy's in Delaware. But we played, bunch of different bars. A lot of which are not around anymore. Some of the VIP lounges. I don't know if any of those places really played a bunch of those. And of course Lane Avenue Mall. But he and I we played Gatsby's a bunch of times. And but we played for 3 years, 2005 through 2008. We played, I don't know, probably 100 shows. And then it just kind of ran its course. I'd started my job. I was working in the hotel industry. I'd gotten promoted, and I was working a lot more, and I was traveling with my job, and it just kind of fizzled out. And so in 2000, let's see, 2000, I think it was 11. I got together with a couple of my buddies, and we started jamming out acoustically in my buddy's living room. It was me and my friend Dan, we call him Devo, and his brother Taylor, very talented guitar player. Some people might know him here, like his name's Taylor DeVault. He still plays around town. He's a lot younger than me. He's like probably in his early 30s. And the three of us started jamming together, and man, it was really great. It was really great. Super organic. Like, we were playing all kinds of cool shit that I'd never played before. They were teaching me a lot of stuff that I'd never heard. We were playing Ryan Adams and Citizen Cope, and like a lot of like current day Americana bluesy kind of stuff that I wasn't hip to, and I took to it immediately, and we were just jamming and having fun. So we got a gig at Victories. I don't even know if Victories is still around. Is it still there?
It is.
Yeah.
I've played there a couple times myself.
Yeah, right.
I love that place.
Yeah, back in the day, it was a hot spot, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
So we got a gig at Victories, and we were playing, and we were opening up for like two bands. It was some kind of an all day thing they had going on, full bands, and we were just a 3-man acoustic thing. Taylor played lead, and Devo and I strummed on acoustics, and we're like, maybe we could get how about we get a cajon player? This was when cajones were first coming around, right? So I called Neil Preston, who was in the Pretty Filth. Neil Preston and I knew each other from when he used to play in a band with Stretch called Mission. I called Neil up and said, "Hey man, we need someone to play. Have you ever played a cajon?" He was like, "No, but any drummer can play. You bang on shit, So Neil came out and played the cajon, and then Neil just ended up starting to jam with us, and he just became the 4th member of Soulshine, and then Soulshine just all of a sudden we just started playing a lot, crazy. And I met the guy that ran entertainment for that year they were opening up World of Beer here in Columbus. There was one in the Brewery District, you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
And one at Easton. And we were playing World of Beer. We were playing each location once or twice a month. And then I told you earlier, I knew a lot of people at Shadowbox, and they asked us to play at the Commons with them. So we played the Commons a couple times, which was freaking crazy, And we were like, we'd only been jamming together for a couple of months, We were playing the Commons in front of hundreds of people, And shit. So I got a wild hair up my ass, and I was like, you know what? There's 2 World of Beers in Columbus, but there's like 50 of them in the country.
I like the way you think,
yeah, right.
mister.
And so I was working at the hotel, in the hotel industry, and one of the hotels that I worked for had just bought a new shuttle van, and their old shuttle van was sitting out rotting in the parking lot on flat tires and expired tags. And I offered them $2,000 for it, a 14-passenger shuttle bus, and they sold it to me. And so I bought the 14-passenger shuttle bus, and me and Neil Preston and Taylor DeVault and my buddy Dan, we hopped in that 14-passenger shuttle van, and we went down and we did a tour of World of Beers down in the Carolinas. And we were getting paid $300 a night plus free beer.
Oh my God. Was Renee with you during this time?
She was.
Really?
Renee came down.
Was she in the
She
van
flew
with
down.
you?
She was way
Okay.
too smart to ride in a
Smart
stinky
lady.
bus with us. She flew down and met us down
She's
there.
a smart lady, man.
And I was working in the hotel industry, so I was able to get us I think a couple of rooms I got us were actually free through friends I knew, and then a couple of them were heavily discounted. But, we weren't making dick for money. I mean, we barely covered the gas. But it was just, I always, to this day, I'm like, I would love to just get in a bus and I would go on tour. I would just drive the country and play gigs. for years.
Are you booking in the bus on the way down on your cell phone?
No,
how is that
I wasn't
out?
quite that. I was a little more organized than that. I did have the gigs lined up before we left, but it was literally like a last minute. Like the last couple hadn't even really fallen into place yet, and they fell into place like a couple days before we left. I had everything lined up, and we went down and played. We played 3 shows. We played a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We played Raleigh, Charlotte, and oh shit, I can't remember, somewhere else. Charleston.
Probably.
Yeah, Charleston. And yeah, it was Charleston. And yeah, it was crazy.
That's so awesome.
It was so fun though, man. We were crazy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
we were so silly, man.
Who did the mechanical work on the van for $2,000?
Oh, God.
Did you do that all yourself?
I did a lot of it, and that was ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back, man. Dude, I can't tell you how many Saturdays I spent laying under that bus.
Oh my
messing
God.
with shit, and how much wire and duct tape and like that silver furnace tape was holding that exhaust system together to get that damn thing to run. I mean, it was so rusty and it was falling apart. But I got it for $2,000, and I drove it. I had it for the first. It bit the bullet in right before COVID hit. It finally like gave up. I was driving it back from a show we had in Marysville. And I ended up having to leave it on the side of the road, on the side of 270. And
it's still there today.
No, I ended up getting it. I actually ended up donating it. I was like, I'm so done with this thing. I just called Cars for Kids and just told them to come pick it up, and they took it. I was done with it. I was like, I fixed everything on this damn thing.
Well, good for you, man. Someone's enjoying it today.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully.
I'm sure either they're enjoying it or they're cursing every minute of that.
What
damn
an experience, though, man! The world tour in the passenger van.
Yeah, it was. So after the Soulshine thing kind of faded out, one day Stretch called me up, and I'd known Stretch from when he played with Neil and a bunch of guys. Randy Cashman and a couple other guys I was buddies with for a long time. They had a band called Mission. And Stretch called me up and was like, "Hey, I'm in this 80s rock band," and I'd never seen them play, and I didn't really talk to Stretch very often at that point. And he was like, "And our singer's quitting, and we're looking for a singer." And I'm like, even though I loved 80s rock my whole life, I'd never sang it before, like in a band. I mean, I was one of those like deep acoustic guys. I'm playing, I'm singing Steve Earle and
country.
Country and classic rock and stuff with I didn't have a lot of high voice kind of stuff, and I didn't think I could do it. I really didn't. And I went and tried out for them, and I wasn't very good. I mean, I look back and I walked in and they'd had it was the band No Regrets, and Kenny Kanowski had sang with them. Terry Ferguson. I mean, these are guys that could hit the highs, and I'm like, I'm not a screamer. I'm just a guy that loved Poison when I was in high school. I don't know,
You knew the words.
But I knew all the words, and I knew the songs. And I say, passion finds its way to manifest itself within you. And it was a one, I think it was the want to do it got me to learn how to do it. And I never had to try vocally before. I just sang whatever came naturally to me, right? Like when I was singing country and stuff like that, it was like, it all just came out naturally, I'm like, I'm singing Garth Brooks. All right, I'm sounding like, I went to work for her that summer. It's like, it just came out,
Yeah.
And you didn't have to try. It just kind of was there. But it's singing 80s rock, man. You got to know your breathing, and it takes technique, And I had to teach myself that, and it took a long time. It took years, And I learned that playing with No Regrets, and but I joined the band, and what turned out, you and I were talking off the air, but before we started recording, but what turned into where I was going to do, one show every month or two, turned into 12 shows a year, turned into 20 shows a year, turned into 40 shows a year, and man, it's amazing what this has manifested itself into, Yeah.
Yeah, and driving force of like-minded people, right? Just bringing it all through your efforts, right? Like you and your partner.
Yeah, and so when I was with No Regrets, like I say, when I joined them, they had zero, like they really didn't have any direction of any kind. They didn't even have a logo, They were just a bunch of dudes playing 80s rock, They were throwing on wigs and getting clothes at the thrift store and playing a few bars, and that's cool, That's cool. And but I joined, and after a while, it became very evident to me that most of the guys in the band, not all of them, most of them wanted more. there was more to it. You know, they wanted to do more than what they were doing, but they just didn't really know what to do.
See it, but they didn't know how to get there.
Yeah, right. And and so I started. You know, Luke Mountjoy was the main founder of that band, and you know, he and I would talk, and he really had some great ideas about what they could do. And I'm like, dude, look. And I told him, I was like, because I'm a sales guy, right? And I mean, I'm a sales guy, born and bred, you know, and I'm a great salesperson, great marketer. I'm like, if we had a better product, I would book us gigs. I was like, but we've got a lot of, if you really want to play festivals and stuff, we're a long way away from that, you know, like this is pretty damn loose, you know, it's very raw. And he and I would meet and we talk about stuff, you know, it came from everything. First of all, you know, getting a logo and getting some social media presence and fixing up our freaking costumes and shit, you know, instead of wearing old ripped up stuff from the thrift store, like getting some actual, if we want to be an 80s rock band and we're going to wear the wigs, then we need to look decent. We don't look like a bunch of bums that, you know, did this. And we really started moving it. So, you know, it kind of sat pretty sterile, or stagnant, I should say, not sterile, stagnant. After about the first 8-10 months, right? And I was like, you know what? This isn't going to go anywhere. So I quit the band. And it's funny because the other day I was cleaning out some shit on my computer and I found the letter that I wrote Luke when I left.
On your departure.
I said, I just feel like there's not much here for me. And, you know, I'm going to finish out the shows we have scheduled. My last show with the band will be Red, White, and Boom. We were scheduled to play Red, White, and Boom, which is a free show. But we were excited to play Red, White, and Boom, you know? Yeah. And I was like, I'll stick it out and play Red, White, and Boom. But after that, I'm done. If you want to bring in a new singer before I leave, that's totally fine. You know, if you guys want to start auditioning somebody or have someone, that's cool. So that was in like fall of 2016. And 2017 rolls around, and QFM 96 had started doing this house band thing, right? Which now has a lot of years behind it.
Sure it does.
This was the second year. Jackass Genius was the winner the first year, and it had taken shape, you know, and people knew what it was. And so I told the guys, I'm like, look, we've got the materials. We've got a couple MP3s. We've got some good photos. I'll submit us for this thing if you guys want me to. And they're like, yeah, okay. And we didn't really think that we would get it. I mean, we didn't know what they were looking for because they'd only had one band. We had no idea what they were looking for. We submitted and we got picked to be in the house band finals, and then we ended up winning it. Well, of course, when we won it, I'm like, well, I'm not going to leave the band now. You know what I mean? I'm like, I know I told you I'm leaving, but
look what you created.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, I'm not going to leave you guys now. That would be really shitty. So then we decided we would, all right, now we're the QFM 96 house band. And man, we had some great shows that year. And I'll give, you know, credit where credit is due. We got some cool shit from the house band stuff, no question. But a lot of the stuff that we got that year also was stuff that we had been working on prior to that. And the big one was Sloppy Joe's at Key West, which we've now been playing at for 7 years. And that all came about because Renee and I were there on vacation. And I walked in there, and the band that was playing was not really that great, but the people were loving what they were playing. And I'm like, you know what? If this band's killing it down here, we would kill it down here. And I pushed on that guy for 2 years. Wow. Email after email after, and I finally got him cornered one time when I was down there on vacation, like a year and a half later. I went and met him, like, dude, like we're like, here's a list of all the places we've played back home. We're the official band of a local rock radio station. Yeah. Give us a chance down here. And they booked us. And to this day, one of the greatest moments of my musical life was after we played Sloppy Joe's, the manager sitting down with me on our last night. He sat down with me on a bar stool across me at a table, and he said, "How many times would you like to play here next year?"
And your answer was?
And the rest is history.
And your answer was?
My answer was, realistically, I can't play here more than twice a year because it's a week stint every time you go. But I'd love to play here every night. But and ever since we've been playing there. Yeah. So we have now played 63 shows, I think, there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, something like that. It's crazy. I've lost track. But we played our 50th show there
Packed
last
house
year.
every time.
And then we still had, so we played 59 shows at that stage. And then after this year, we're going to be close to 70. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Well, the crowd
Crazy.
too, man. The crowd, everyone's there to party.
Yeah, man. It's
And have
nuts.
a good time
And it's an international
and rock
crowd.
out.
You know how cool it is when you come off on a break and someone comes up to you that doesn't even speak English, but they just are trying to convey to you how much they love you, whether they're speaking German or Japanese or, God, they're Swedish. I don't know what you're saying. But it's crazy. That's the coolest thing about playing there. And like we were talking earlier, it's 21 years old to 95 years old in that audience. And it's literally people from all over the world every single night of the week. It's fantastic, man. And anybody that's seen our schedule, with a couple of rare exceptions, every show that we have played out of the state of Ohio, all came from Sloppy Joe's. From somebody seeing us there and be like, hey, would you guys want to come to Indiana? Hey, would you guys want to come to South Carolina? Hey, would you guys want to come to Kansas City? That all came from Sloppy Joe's.
What a story, dude.
And it continues to pay, dude.
What a story. That's
No doubt.
so cool.
Right? It's crazy, man.
It's
Crazy.
so cool. You
Yeah.
saw the opportunity and you took a chance.
No doubt. Yeah.
And all the spawns from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My God. So was that, which band started those gigs in Florida?
So we got that booked as No Regrets, and actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm really want to, it was a pivotal time in all of our lives. We were No Regrets. We were the QF96 house band. We had a hell of a year that year.
Yeah.
We played Oktoberfest for the first time, and Zufari, and God, we had so many shows that year, and we played like 45 shows that year. And the week before we left to play Sloppy Joe's for the first time, Luke passed away.
Yeah.
We were at practice at Ross Davis's place, and I heard his episode on here. And we practiced on Monday nights, and we were leaving the following Tuesday to go to Sloppy Joe's. And we showed up at practice, and I walked in, and everybody was somber, and we walked in the room, and our drummer was like, I don't know how to say this, but Luke's dead. And I was like, when I say he said dead, I thought he meant like he was in trouble for something. I'm like, why? What did he do? He was like, no, I mean, he passed away today.
Oh my God.
And we all just like, oh my God, it just like, it was just too much, I mean, I still look back, I'm like, that was just such a heavy, heavy thing. And, so we sat there for hours, and Ross was great, man. Ross Davis, he was just like, he was really, and to this day, he's one of us, he has run sound and production for us that, God, I've lost track of how many shows, and we had so many pivotal moments of our career as a band at his place out there on the east side. And Ross was there that night, and and everything. And after we sat there and just I don't know, went through all those emotions for a couple of hours, I remember looking at all the guys. I'm like, guys, we have to play Key West.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, we worked really, really hard to get it. And secondly, we've got about 50 people coming down there to see us that have already paid for hotel rooms and flights and taken time off of work. And we need to do it for them and for us. We need to play those shows next week. And Luke's funeral was that weekend. And then we left and we played our first ever shows without him. The first show we ever played without Luke was on the stage at Sloppy Joe's, and we had to play 6 nights in a row without him. And man, that was emotional.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And we got after the first of the year, and we parted ways with the drummer from No Regrets, and we didn't really know what was next. And me and Stretch and Greg were like, we should keep this going, and we did. And and to turn that around, turn something that was so heavy around, where we were all just lost, and turn it into a situation. I think we ended up playing close to 45 shows that first year as Rock House, and we were a little lost at first. It felt very weird, to be honest,
Sure.
And then we kind of got our groove down, and somewhere along the lines that summer, it all kind of started falling into place. We had messed around with having another guitar player that would have been basically like the replacement Luke, that second guitar player. And then we just decided, we don't need that. That's gone. Let's move on as a 4-piece. And we did. And we moved on as a 4-piece. And we just never looked back, I'll say this too. This was crazy because this was a pivotal thing. When we became Rock House and it became the band that I owned, because I didn't own No Regrets or have ownership. I was like their 8th lead singer, I came on way, way late in the process. But Rock House was mine. I started Rock House with Stretch and Greg, and I took ownership of all. I'm like, look, I'll take care of everything. We're just going to play. You guys just show up, play the gigs. Everything else, I got it, And I sat down with several local booking agents, and I was like, this is what we've been. This is what I want us to be. What do we need to do? What are we not doing that we should be doing? And that was one of the smartest things I ever did, because I listened to them. And I think if you're a musician and you want to be good and you want to be great, or you want to do something more than what you're doing, you better know how to put your ego aside and ask people, how did you do that?
Yeah.
How did you guys get that? Or how did you do this? Or what can I do to be better? Because that's the thing. I think people are music is such a personal thing that your ego gets in the way too often. And, because it's such a personal part of you, music is, and you feel like anything that tells you that you're not doing it right or you could do it better almost feels a little bit too personal. And if you can put that aside and you can ask somebody, hey, how can I be better? How can I be more like this? And you really, really listen. But I did that. And I took all that information to heart, and it's still all in play today.
It's great advice.
Yeah.
And you're an example of what can be.
I appreciate that, man.
The band, right? I mean, what a force of rock and roll, Rock House.
Thanks, man.
That show.
I mean, it's really, we're literally just a bunch of dudes that love doing what we're doing, and it's a very, very honest approach. We're literally just having fun. And I say, and like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to dressing up and shit like that, just like Tiffany said, I'm doing it because it's fun. It's fun to get dressed up. It's fun. I wear jeans, and look at me now. I wear jeans and a t-shirt every day.
Yeah.
It's fun to put on freaking fishnet gloves and bracelets and a wig and a bandana and a skull cowboy hats and leather pants. That's fun because I don't do that every day, and you take on this persona and you can really just let it all come out and just let it be extremely organic and honest. And like I say, that's why we don't have any desire or anything to use any kind of tracks or anything too complicated, because rock and roll was never supposed to be complicated. It was just supposed to be
just
honest.
Straight up.
Yeah,
straight
just organic and honest and dirty and raw and emotional and that's it, man. I tell you what, it's just, if you let it get there, just let it all hang out and not worry too much about being perfect or whatever, you're going to have a hell of a lot more fun. And I'm so glad that I figured that out before it was too late.
Well, you guys are definitely having fun.
No doubt, right?
Your stadium crowds, right, are definitely having fun.
Yeah, man, we got a great lineup.
Filled with party people and filled with gigs this year, man. It's awesome to hear. Yeah,
it took a long time to get to a point where where you can look at your schedule and be like, and I'll tell you, one of the pieces of advice I did receive, back in the day was, because I'm like, I've been playing bars for 20 years. I don't want to play bars anymore. Like, and this individual that I met with, she was like, you need to play bars because you're going to connect with people in bars. You need to still play bars, and it comes to places like, Benny's Pizza and the Ugly Mug, and places like that, it's like, we and then we get to connect. We still get to connect with people. It's not all about just playing festivals and casinos where you come off stage and you just go right into a dressing room. There's more to it than that. And we're never going to stop playing bars and stuff around Central Ohio, because you can connect with your fans and stuff like that. I guess one thing I would say to like local bars, or local bands, I'm sorry. It's like, hey, you're willing to drive an hour to play at Papa Boo's, or you're willing to drive an hour to play out at Indian Lake. Well, then go ahead and drive an hour or an hour and a half and play in New Knoxville, or go drive an hour and play in Bucyrus, or go drive, an hour and play in, Jackson Center or Washington Courthouse, because they want you to come there and see, they don't want to just see their same 3 or 4 local bands they have. Yeah, they want to see bands from Columbus coming out there. So make the drive, go out there and go outside the 270 radius and go see other people around Ohio, because they want to see you, and that's why our schedule looks the way that it does. It's like, I want to go out, and there's nothing more thrilling than going and playing a place that they have no idea who you are. And by the time you leave, you just gained several hundred new fans.
It's so awesome.
That's the best, man. I'm telling you, for me, that's where it lies right there.
Good for you, man. Yeah. What a story.
Yeah. Len, I'm so appreciative of you having me come over. And I tell you, I really have enjoyed listening to your guests, the guys like, Jason Levitt and Rico and guys like that, the guys that and guys and gals that I see around the music scene. I don't know them, you talk to them and hey man, how are you? And this and that. So it's so cool to listen to their stories, because everybody's got a story. Where'd you come from? Where'd you play? What bands would you play with?
What's inspiring?
And I love, listening to all that stuff. Yeah. And just being like, hey, it's like everybody's got a story, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You've got a story of some kind. And I've enjoyed listening to them and hearing about everybody and what got them to be in the same seat, as we're all sitting in. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. That's what it's all about, man.
No doubt, dude.
And this is no exception, Doug. We really appreciate you sharing your story and your inspirations and everything that's occurred along the way, ups and downs. To the nth degree, you wouldn't trade it for the world, would you?
Nah, man. Nah, it's been crazy. If you had told me 20 years ago that I'd be 53 years old and throwing a wig on every weekend and singing 80s rock, I would have thought you were crazy, but somehow or another I ended up here. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad it happened when it did, because if this would have happened when I was younger, I would have never lived through it. I would have never lived through it, man. There's no way. But now I'm old enough where I'm a lot wiser, and I'll grab some Taco Bell on the way home and get a good night's sleep. That's about the extent of it.
It's a different kind of pollution.
No doubt, right? Exactly.
Well, man, again, I really appreciate everything you've shared today. It's episode number 60. I can't freaking believe it.
I say I've rambled on a long time. I know, it's like, I just think, I love hearing people's musical journeys, and it's just been crazy, man. It's sitting here, and so thanks for letting me just ramble on and just.
It wasn't a ramble, dude. It was
at you about all the stuff I've done. Yeah.
I think you've offered some really good advice too through all that, and number of shout outs.
Yeah, man. We've got a great rock and roll community here in Columbus, and I love it. People, keep it real. We're not competing nobody's competing with each other. And I'll tell you what, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and somebody out there is willing to pay for you to come play at their venue and people are willing to see you, you've already won.
Yeah.
You're not competing against anybody, man. You've already won, and that's it, man. I think about that every time. Like, hey, when I leave the house, I'm like, I've already won. I'm going to a gig, man. Someone's paying me to come out and sing freaking Poison, So that's it, man. That's the real thing.
That's the real thing, man. Episode number 60. Doug Blessing, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother. It's been great.
Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.